Hello! We've had lots of questions. There have been questions coming in on the comments of the videos, and thanks if you've left any, and we haven't been able to answer them on the comments because, frankly, we've had a lot going on at the moment. But we figured that we would actually answer them in this video. Maybe the first of a selection of Q&A videos where we'll deal with things people are asking us and hopefully answer them in a coherent manner. Fingers crossed. But yeah, going back on, and there's quite a few here because basically, some of this is like going back to the first Narrowboat videos that we put up 2 months ago. I've jotted down the questions and the names of the people who asked them. So just starting off back on the first video that we did, actually, the 6 days on a narrowboat.
Our narrowboat holiday, where we were testing out to see whether we could live on a narrowboat.
Yes, and it worked. But yes, Jackie Searle on that video did just ask, why were you so scared of the tunnel, and why don't they light it?
Well, yeah, we had to go through the Hare Castle tunnel, and we'd had about an hour's boating experience.
Yeah, it's
point.
It's the trouble about hiring boats from where we did. Almost the first thing you have to do is a tunnel that's 2.5 kilometers long.
People have died in the Hare Castle tunnel.
Yeah.
One of the overriding sort of narrowboat-related stories of the previous year, which is sort of like it happened at the same time as we were deciding to live on a boat, was that a man actually banged his head and fell off the back of the boat and drowned in the tunnel. So that was always in the back of our minds, that tunnels can be quite dangerous.
Yeah.
They aren't lit. I suspect it's for budget reasons. Also, it's quite wet in there, so we'd sort of.
It would be a big operation to actually light a tunnel that big, and yeah.
And it has a very low. The roof sort of gets smaller and smaller the further you go through, and it's sort of like this. And then there's lots of points where you could bang your head potentially if you were leaning out a bit.
Yeah.
We've been given this dodgy advice about how fast we should go through, so we were trying to go too fast, and that kept sucking us into the walls of the tunnel. So on our first trip down the tunnel, we kept banging.
Yeah, it was really traumatic. It was because...
And it's really loud. Like, if you bang a narrowboat into a tunnel, it's just this enormous echoing, clanging noise.
Yeah, and it was also the fact that because they boats go through. God damn it! So yeah, it's the boats go through the Hare Castle tunnel in groups of 5 because it's only one way. So they'll let a group of 5 in one way, and then they'll let a group of 5 in the other way. And we were like the 3rd in the queue, so yeah. So there was a boat behind us, so we couldn't slow down too much, otherwise the boat behind would catch up, and that just generally added to the sense of tension that we had all the way through. That's why it was so scary, really. But it was better on the way back, and I think it's.
Yeah, I didn't bump once.
Yeah.
Inside the tunnel.
I think it's one of those things that
I bumped on the way out.
I think it starts scary, but the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the less intimidating it'll be. Keith Harvey asked about our last video when we were actually update 6. Yes, because our last video was on update 6 when we were talking about our transport problems and that we had a lock that was closed that was preventing us from being able to do stuff. He said, the lock is open on the 14th of December, why not wait till then? Sort of in brackets, unless there is ice or floods, the weather shouldn't be a problem. It was kind of the ice and the floods that we were worried about.
Risk, like just before Christmas.
Yeah.
There is the potential for the canals freezing over. We don't really want to mess up the paintwork on the hull immediately.
Yeah, and especially doing a tricky bit of the canals.
The Trent's scary at any time of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's and also we won't have a stove on the boat at that stage. It's
Yeah.
going to be an insulated sail away, so we'll have very limited heating. So, but it's all worked out.
It's worked out, and ultimately we are actually kind of weirdly, relieved and glad that we don't have to do that. Now, Linda McCarthy asked, "Are we planning to continuously cruise, or do we have a residential mooring?"
We're planning to cruise. We'll probably overwinter in Nottingham most years. That might be a towpath mooring. It might be a mooring in a marina. Probably towpath. I don't know. It depends how we feel. But we're just really excited about being able to sort of cruise around the whole network and visit all the different places on the network.
Yeah, because I mean, I have to admit, when you pitched it to me initially, just the whole idea, if you'd actually sort of said, "Hey, we can live on a boat in a marina and occasionally go to other places," I wouldn't have been quite so hot on that idea. It was very much just the idea of being able to go anywhere and
explore,
being water nomads. I don't know. I really like the idea. It's probably reading too much Swallows and Amazons when I was younger, but yeah, it was that really attracted me to the idea. So that's what we're going for. And the next question. Now, yes, we move on to slightly more complicated questions from Michael Caton and Anne Isaac. But both of you kind of asked roughly the same question. Why are we going for a new boat when there's a multitude of different boats out there? And also, Michael Caton sort of additionally asked, are the costs different, and sort of what sort of fit out will we have? I don't know. Do you want to cover this? Because
we looked at a lot of boats.
Yes,
boats.
Back at the beginning, we were actually quite strongly thinking, we'll probably get a second. Because practically speaking, it seemed a more sensible thing. Then we started looking at the boats that were available.
Yeah, we originally thought we might be able to get one for like 20 or 30 grand. It'd be great. But then we looked at a lot of boats that were for 20 or 30 grand. And they were not so great.
They were not so great.
They were, 10 or 15 years old, inadequate insulation. A lot of them were self-fit outs that weren't the best.
No.
Or were very dated.
Yes, very caravan-y very often.
Yeah. You don't know what the state of the stuff is. You don't know what the state of the stove is. You don't know about like the Webasto or whatever kind of heater, what state it's in, the state of the engine. We'd have to get the hull checked, and it was a worry that we'd get something and the hull would be corroded, and then we'd have to mess about overplating.
Yeah, because a lot of the ones that we looked at they ranged from like sort of 10 to 15 to even like 20 years old. When you're looking at that price, I think we found that there's a line,
and a lot of them there were either liverboards that had been done by people themselves, or they were basically holiday boats that somebody's grandpa had got, and they were just completely wrong for living aboard.
Yeah, particularly we have very specific.
Yeah, we have specific needs because we both work from home, so we need to be able to work on the boat. So we need to fit a dinette in and a desk area, so we both have somewhere to work.
Yeah.
So we need to fit a lot of stuff on a boat, but we still wanted it to be short enough that we could actually get around the whole network and do the Northern Canal, so Leeds and Liverpool. And we've only really managed to achieve that by having a quite sort of custom design. There aren't many boats that have sort of the four cabin arrangement, the enclosed bow with the bed in the front.
It does depend on how specific you want to be, because you inherit other people's choices if you buy an older boat. And some of those choices might not be good, but you're stuck with them. And you have to, like wherever the stove is, you kind of have to stick with that, really. Because, I mean, there was plenty of boats where we looked in and we would go, why have they put the stove there? And
there are a lot that have the stove near the front, near the bow.
yeah,
And it's against the safety standards to do that now because it blocks one of your main exits. If the stove goes up, you can be trapped if you can't get out the back.
yeah, and I mean, I was sort of trying to say earlier, but we did find that there's a line with used boats. Honestly, if you go above 50,000, you do actually start encountering some nice-ish ones.
The first one we saw that we felt that we could actually live on, it was actually a Jonathan Wilson boat.
Yeah.
It was just over 50,000.
Yeah, I think it was about 55 or so.
We thought, yes, we could live on this, but it had lots of design decisions that we wouldn't make. Still.
Yeah, it was technically outside our price range anyway.
I have specific issues with beds on boats because a lot of them are either against the side of the cabin, so one person is squashed against the side of the cabin, basically trapped in bed, or they're cross beds, in which case one of you still needs to climb over the other to get to the loo in the middle of the night. And I really hate having to climb over Saxon to get to the loo.
Yeah, I'm not fond of having to climb over her, really. That didn't...
So we thought if we get one in the very front of the boat, then we can both climb off the end without climbing over each other.
Yeah, and not have to dismantle the bed every night or whatever. Because that was the thing. It's like, if you're going to be on something on the holiday, only for a short amount of time, then you can cope with that kind of thing. But
if you're going to be living on it for about 10 years, which is what our plan is, we want to be comfortable.
Yes. So that was the thing. And after a while, I mean, particularly... Should we tell them about Death Boat?
Death Boat.
Yes. There was one particular one we saw that was just the minute we walked on, we were like, oh my God, are we going to make it off this boat? Because it was the floor.
The floor was spongy.
Yes, and creak, just too many creaks, basically. I can cope with a small number of creaks, but it was like, whoa, this actually feels a bit unsafe.
And the stove was like really rusty and had holes in.
Yeah.
And there was exposed wiring and...
Yes, we christened it Death Boat and just basically thought, let's get the hell off this as quickly as possible.
A couple of weeks later, I was actually reading a Narrowboat forum, and someone was complaining that they'd actually fallen through the floor of a boat. It was the same marina.
Yeah. So
I think it may have been the same boat.
It may have been. We can't guarantee.
Someone was got by the spongy floor.
Who knows? But yeah, that basically pointed us in the direction that we've ended up going. I mean, it's very much limited by what you see as well. It's very possible that further outside our kind of search radius, there may have been some pretty good boats for that kind of price. It just, ultimately it felt like, we're lucky enough to have enough money basically to be able to.
We thought, for a fairly similar price to what we were going to spend anyway, we can do it ourselves, get it exactly how we want it, and it will be better because we can have all of these extra bits that we wouldn't be able to get if we were paying for someone else to do it.
I can understand, there are going to be some people out there who like the idea of getting a boat and don't want to spend 6 to 8 months doing it up. Probably. I'm trying to be optimistic here, but yeah, I can get that. It's a choice that'll work for some people, and ultimately, it just didn't work for us. This is still feeling like the right direction to go in, and so I guess that does cover. Yeah, I mean, the costs are a little bit different, but not necessarily that much different, depending on what you want, because it's very possible that you might have to, you might buy a used boat and then have to almost gut it in order to sort of turn it into what you want. Or there may be surveying costs, there may be repair costs. Used boats can look cheaper. They can look cheaper, but they aren't necessarily cheaper. It depends on what you want to do, really. Anyway, going on. Paul Ackley, we answered this already on the comments, but we'll answer this here as well, asked who's doing our build.
Well, we are.
Well, technically, we're not actually doing the steel work.
We're getting the boat from Tyler Wilson, because we were really impressed by them.
Yes.
They have 2 different boatyards, I think. Tim Tyler is in Stoke and Jonathan Wilson is in Sheffield, and we're going with Jonathan Wilson in Sheffield.
Yes.
And we can't recommend them enough. They're great guys. Jonathan's really helpful, easygoing, easy to talk to, sense of humour.
Yes, very clear ideas about what he likes and what he doesn't
really
like.
High standards.
Yeah.
Lots of attention to detail. Yeah, great.
Yeah, no, it's worked out really, really nicely. Now, next question. Well, I guess that one is sort of thought about boat builds cost. Yes, there's we've had a couple of sort of general questions about whether we'll be sort of like looking at some of the more specific elements of what we're sort of going to be doing. I mean, Mark Doyle asked about boat builds and costs and things like this, and Philip Beale wanted specifically to know about the boring but interesting stuff other videos never cover, things like heating and plumbing in the engine. We will be covering those. We will. Give us time.
We'll be filming as we go along.
Yes.
With build, and probably learning a lot as we go along.
Yes. But yeah, there'll be a lot more of that stuff once we actually have the boat here. Because yeah, we'll be able to cover that in a lot more depth that way. And yeah, at the end, we kind of we have again 2 questions that sort of cover similar grounds. One from Anne Isaac, who asked sort of, what do you do for work and how will living aboard affect your work? And Simon Smith, who basically said, would be great to have some background and your story. Presumably not all of our story, we would be here a while. But yeah, well, I mean, in terms of work, because I realised in the why we're living on a narrowboat video, I said I was a freelance. I didn't say what I did as a freelance. I kind of spotted that in the edit and thought, well, no, I can't do anything about that now. But I'm a freelance journalist and proofreader. The thing you may, I don't know, if anyone out there is actually into science fiction, if you've read the magazine SFX at any point in the last 15 years, you will have seen my name somewhere because I've been contributing to them, doing reviews and a few articles here and there for quite a long time. Used to be a movie journalist, I'm not anymore. And I work as a proofreader, and also I've been working for a long time on trying to break in as an author.
I'm a programmer. I make websites and earn money from the advertising on websites, but that's really not where my heart is. I've always wanted to be a writer, and part of the reason that I want to move on to the boat is because I want to get myself to a position where I can write more, because I don't know, neither of us are in a great financial position, but it will be better once we're on the boat. Yeah, apart from that, I do a lot of knitting at the moment.
Lots of knitting. But yeah, I mean, I guess it does. The fact that we, even before we were sort of like looking into this, the fact that we both worked from home did have a lot to do with being able to actually choose to do this, really. Because I mean, I know there are people out there who live on boats who do have proper jobs, and they find ways of making it work, and that can absolutely be a complication, especially if you're trying to be a continuous cruiser. I mean, there's going to be certain aspects of this that will be a little bit of upheaval. I mean, most of what I do at the moment should be, I should be able to make the transfer relatively seamlessly. There's going to be some things that will be trickier.
As long as we've got internet access, I think we'll be mostly okay.
We should be able to solve most problems. But yeah, it has always been nice just being in a situation where we both work from home, because we're not specifically tied anywhere. So it means that we can be continuous cruisers, and we don't have to be in a specific place. So yeah, that's helped an awful lot with making the decision as well, really. And yeah, that's pretty much all the questions for the moment, at least. I mean, we'll see if as soon as sort of like more come along, we'll do our best to answer them. And yeah, if you've got anything you want to know, if there's anything in this vid that you'd like to know more detail about, let us know, and we'll see what we can do. And yeah, maybe we will do some more Q&A vids at some point relatively soon. But thanks for watching. Hope this has been relatively enjoyable. And I'm sure we will be back with another Narrowboat update pretty soon. So until then, bye bye.